What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 11 of the Final Whistle. We're through 10 episodes. We've done it. Got over the hump.
Got
We're
over
we're
the hump.
we're fully here now. Okay, we're not going anywhere. 11 episodes deep. Good NFL slate this weekend. A lot of good games. A lot of solid games as opposed to last week. There were a lot of mid games. College football,
Yeah.
which we're going to start off with, took a toll. Took a toll this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a very wacky week.
You want to start off with any game in particular before we dive into
Well,
the big one?
I know you're expecting to hear me say something about the big one since you're our resident Crimson Tide guy, but I'll just start with this. Danny, this was the wildest weekend we've seen in college football for a very long time. Let me just say, two teams entered the top four. I personally don't think one of those teams should be there. I think we might agree on the one. But it's a completely new top four. Texas is now number one, Ohio State number two, Oregon three, Penn State four. Georgia stays at five, Miami sixth, Bama and Tennessee both go soaring down. Bama 6 spots, Tennessee 4 spots. They're 7 and 8. Ninth, Ole Miss, 10th, Clemson. We have a completely revamped top 10 with, of course, the middle of it's been changed. Iowa State and Notre Dame literally tied in AP points. They're 11th and 12th. LSU, BYU, Texas A&M, Utah, they're all there. Texas A&M soaring this week, up 10 spots in the poll. 17 and 18th, Boise State and Indiana. And a funny thing, it's a three-way tie for 18th based off points. It's Indiana, Oklahoma, Kansas State. Missouri's there. They're down 12 spots. Hail to Pitt. Pitt is now ranked. They're now 22nd. Illinois is 23rd. Michigan is down 14 spots. They are now 24th. I think they're still ranked, though, because they beat USC, who just got unranked. And then SMU, who was not ranked, is number 25. So Pitt and SMU join the rankings. Alabama and Tennessee dip like crazy, along with Missouri. And I guess the elephant in the room has to be the Alabama Crimson Tide. I don't know if we want to start with that first, save that for last. But Tennessee also loses to Arkansas 19-14. Other than that, like there's the big thing. Miami shouldn't have won against Cal. People were very upset about that one. That's now probably 2 games people think Miami should have lost. Missouri got absolutely murdered on the road at number 25, Texas A&M. They lost 41-10. They were the number 9 team, so no wonder they dropped down so far. Michigan was number 10. They lost 27-17. USC number 11. They lost 24-17. So many top 10, like top 25 teams lost this past week. And the shape of the college football landscape has definitely changed here early in the season. A lot of teams just now playing their third game against their conference. SEC, Bama is now 1-1. Here's the funny thing about Bama. They went from having game of the year against Georgia, absolutely awesome. They become number 1. They're finally ranked first. I'm watching, I forget what game it was that was on, but I think it was the Michigan game or a Penn State game was on TV. And actually, no, it was Pitt. It was Pitt versus, I forget who they're playing at the top of my head. Pitt versus whoever it was. And one of the announcers, they were previewing Bama, Vanderbilt. The one of them said, you don't even have to watch this game. This is an easy win for Alabama. And what happens? I'm watching the WWE pay-per-view, keeping up with this Bama score on my phone. It's like Vanderbilt's winning after the first, winning at halftime. Bama slowly creeping back. And then I look final score. I turn it on. Vanderbilt wins 40-35. I think the graphics showed they were 0-60 against top 5 opponents in their school history. And Bama goes down on the road in Vanderbilt, of all places. This was amazing to watch as a college football fan. I know you're probably not happy about it. But how about the Commodores? The Vanderbilt Commodores, probably the laughing stock of the SEC, gets a big win against Jalen Milroe and the Alabama Crimson Tide, who are now ranked not even 1 anymore. They have dropped down to almost 10th. How about it?
Bad game on Bama's standpoint. I mean, you look at the stats. Nick Saban, in all his years coaching in Alabama, gave up 13 points ever combined to Vanderbilt. Kalen DeBoer comes into Titletown, gives up 40 to the Commodores. Now, obviously, this is a fluke, but bad. Bama should not be. When I was asked where do you think Bama should be ranked after this, I said 7. just you can't win games like this. I mean, Jalen Milroe still had a solid game for 310 yards. We threw a 1 interception. You can't be throwing picks against Vandy, bro. You just can't. Unacceptable. Ryan Williams, 82 yards. I would like to see more out of Ryan Williams, especially against Vanderbilt. They just got outplayed simply, and Bama was trying to play catch up the entire game, and they could not stop Vanderbilt on defense. Bama's defense looked horrible, looked literally piss poor, awful, one of the worst I've ever seen out of Bama defensively. And giving up 40 points to Vandy, I mean, Jesus, that's a bad look. Kalen DeBoer is going to have to figure something out pretty fast here. And I personally just think that you got to keep moving. There's nothing with this Bama team for the first 4 weeks of the season. This looked like easily the best team in the country. They were ranked number 1, fittingly so. They just came off a great win against Georgia, and then you come in and you totally underestimate Vanderbilt. You think you're going to get an easy win, and they put up a 40 burger on you, and you lose by 5. Just a straight up embarrassing win for Alabama. I would say that this is a more embarrassing loss for Alabama that they've had in the last 10 years, just because Vanderbilt is such a little brother to any SEC school. There's such like a meme in the SEC. It's like, oh, well, it's Vandy. They're a joke in the SEC. So for them to come into or for Bama to go into Vanderbilt and Nashville and lose, and that has to be one of the worst losses in Alabama program history, easily. And do I think Kalen DeBoer is at fault for all this? I think half. His defense just played just so horribly that it's – I mean, I don't think the offense played that bad, honestly. I mean, they've put up 42 points at least in every football game they played so far. They put up 35 points, but they were also trying to play catch-up a lot. So
I think this is, like you said, it is the most embarrassing game in Bama history, probably one of them that is at least a regular season game. And I just got to give all the props to Vanderbilt. They went in. It was a home game for them. There were so many Bama fans there. It felt like a road game probably for them. And they just upset them. It's just funny to look at it. I do not like Alabama that much. I don't hate them, but I don't like them. And it's like the week they become number 1, they finally they beat Georgia, a team that they have an intense rivalry with. They take the higher seed, and now this week they're back below Georgia in the rankings. Like, this is the most Alabama thing I think I've ever seen. It's kind of like every year there's always the expectations of Bama is the best, blitz Bama blitz, like that type of stuff. They're going to win a natty. But then right when they get to number 1, something stupid happens like this, and they immediately go from here up top all the way to down in the basement. Now I think you said they're 7th right now, 7th or 8th. And now they're just kind of clinging on. This SEC right now, let me pull up the standings because I'm actually curious about what they look like. The SEC is it's a different SEC now. Bama and Georgia playing each other is actually huge because now the SEC is not a 2-division standpoint. It's everyone. It's going to be the top 2 teams making the SEC championship. It's no longer, I think, East or West or however the divisions were. Right now, it's Texas A&M versus Texas in the SEC championship.
Yeah,
Texas A&M's already 3-0 in the SEC play. And they just murdered Missouri, by the way. They beat Arkansas pretty good and also beat Florida pretty good. They've looked very decent. No one's talking about the Aggies that much. Texas has looked great. They went to the Big House. I think that's a really impressive win. They murdered Michigan. Even though Michigan is not the same national championship team, they're having quarterback issues. It's still very impressive to go to a stadium that holds about 100K. And I'm pretty sure they said there was like 102,000 there that game. That's a raucous environment. It's very tough to play in, and they murdered them. Moving on, then you have LSU. They're 1-0. But then there's the teams that have losses. 4th place, what on earth? Georgia, Arkansas, Missouri's 1-1. There's so many teams in this conference that are 1-1 right now, or 1-2. Kentucky, I know it was brought up earlier, they're 1-2. They had a tough loss to Georgia. That easily could have been a win, by the way. Georgia could be 2-2 right now in the SEC. There's only 2 teams in the SEC right now that don't have a win. Mississippi State and Auburn. That's it. Everyone else at least has 1 win. And with the way the SEC is set out, the way this realignment has worked, and all these teams are fighting for the 1 and 2 seeds instead of divisional champions, I think you could put anyone in this SEC championship right now, especially since Bama and Georgia both have an L. If A&M or Texas can stay undefeated, even LSU, those are going to be the teams. And the college football playoff could get someone like Texas A&M that they didn't expect in there. And I think they've been a really big success story so far in the SEC.
Some other stuff that happened. Kentucky upset. Nicholas wanted us to talk about the Kentucky upset. Where's Kentucky? Kentucky, big win. They beat
Yeah.
was that 2 weeks ago or was that last week that was 2 weeks ago they beat Ole Miss. So Kentucky didn't do anything this week, did they? They know. Who they beat? Yeah, they beat Ole
Let me
Miss
pull up
last week.
scores. Did they have a
Because
bye?
Ole Miss
I'm not sure.
Ole Miss beat South Carolina. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
Kentucky was off this week.
Yeah. So
I got
Nicholas,
well, yeah, Kentucky did beat Ole Miss too. That's the other one.
that is a really big win.
And that ruined the SEC. That really Ole Miss
Now the
losing,
SEC is totally up in arms.
it really, and like the Big Ten as well. Now that Michigan's not that good.
Missouri got smoked by A&M too. I think that's the biggest win of the SEC this week was A&M.
This whole adding Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC and the Big Ten adding so many Pac-12 schools like UCLA, Oregon, Washington, and USC, and changing it to the whole conference standpoint instead of the divisions. That's gonna be changing a lot because right now I just want to take a quick look at the Big Ten. I'm gonna look up their standings right now.
Why the hell is Penn State ranked 4th? Like, can we figure that out? There's better teams than Penn State. Okay, who have they beat?
Can we look? Actually, I want to look at the rankings.
Teams.
The rankings.
Horrible.
Of all these teams ahead of Penn State, Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, I think all those 3 beat Penn State. Those are fine. Look at the teams behind them. Do you think Georgia beats Penn State? I would think so. How about Miami?
Yes.
I don't know if I put Miami in there.
I would.
There's 2 games they should have lost back to back. They played. Who did Miami just? They beat Virginia Tech 38-34, Cal 39-38.
Great game.
It's a game probably they should have lost too. It's 2 games.
They were down 35.
I'll give Penn State the benefit of the doubt over Miami right now. Alabama, they lose. Tennessee, they lose. Ole Miss, I think they lose to all these SEC schools. That's not me just saying this because I wear a Pitt hat. They would beat Pitt. Penn State beats Pitt this year, in my opinion. There's no they always have. I know Eli Holstein has been absolutely amazing, but I don't think Pitt can go into Penn State and beat them.
I think they could easily.
It's close. It would be a very good game, but I don't think Pitt beats Penn State this year personally.
I think they could.
The defense looked kind of suspect this past week against North Carolina. But like so many other teams, I think a lot of these teams can beat Penn State. I get there's 3 Big Ten schools in the top 4. Not all those teams are going to be in the top 4, let alone I don't think all those teams make the playoff. I think one of those teams probably won't be in the playoff because Penn State, I think, still plays Ohio State and Oregon this season. Look at their schedule coming up. They do not have Oregon. They have USC on the road, Wisconsin on the road, home against Ohio State and Washington, and then 2 on the road, Purdue and Minnesota, home against Maryland. I think Penn State's going to at least lose to Ohio State. I think Penn State will probably make the playoff.
Yeah.
But they always lose to Ohio State every year. That's the big story. Until they beat Ohio State, I don't think I can take Penn State seriously.
I agree.
They have the talent. They have a great running back. Drew Aller's been pretty good, even though I don't really think he's going to be good on the next level. But they're Singleton, great running back. I think he's one of the best running backs in the country behind the guy from Boise State. He's been a beast. But other than that, I completely get where you're coming from. There's teams behind Penn State that I would even rank Georgia or Bama still ahead of Penn State, even though both those teams have a loss. The one thing that sticks with me watching Penn State this season, they have 2 wins over MAC schools, 56-0 over Kent, but also the Bowling Green scare. That's the one that I'm putting them still behind Bama or Georgia, even with the losses they had. Because Bama and Georgia at least have a decent schedule. Georgia at least lost to Bama. Bama, got upset by Vanderbilt, but I'd still put Georgia ahead of Penn State with those scenarios. They played the better teams. Kentucky's a better team than Bowling Green and Kent, personally.
Yeah,
I know easily. Penn State beat West Virginia and Illinois. Illinois was ranked at least, and they had a really impressive win against UCLA. But Penn State's top 10. I don't think they're top 4. I think they're in there somewhere. Probably still top 8 where they were. They jumped up 3 spots.
They're not better than Bama, bro.
Oh no, they're not. They're not. I put Bama and Georgia ahead of them right now. Penn State jumped up 3 spots from last week. They were 7th. They jumped Miami and Georgia. Bama took their place.
They'll lose to South Carolina this week. Watch.
Who?
Penn State. They're going to lose to South Carolina this week.
No, USC, California, not South Carolina.
Yeah, USC. Yeah. Sorry, USC.
We got the SEC. We got the SEC talk in our brains. But like,
South Carolina, or
I
not
could
South
see
Carolina.
it. USC just got unranked, and it's a road game. They're going to
Yep.
California too. I think it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be the first, probably non-Rose Bowl regular season California game they've probably played ever during the regular season this early. But like, I'll just say it before we move on to another topic. College football was crazy this week. We didn't even talk about Tennessee losing to Arkansas. That was tough.
Mhm.
2 top 4 teams go down the same week. So many top teams lost. I don't know if you have any final points, but like,
Not really. Glad
was a good
Pitt's
weekend
ranked.
for sports. Yeah. NFL, we got a lot to talk about, I think. And I guess the big news was the Jets fired their coach, Robert Saleh.
That happened this morning. Some other news just broke as well is the Patriots have decided that they're going to turn to the rookie Drake May to start Sunday's game against the Texans, and thus going forward, Drake May will be the starter in New England.
And that is a good decision. I think they need to go right to the rookie. I think you drafted a quarterback 3rd overall. I like what they've had the perfect placeholder QB. I get it. But the Patriots aren't going nowhere. They're not going to do anything. I'd want to see what the rookie can do. Like, Bo Nix is already playing for the Broncos, and he had a pretty good last couple weeks, in my opinion, especially this past game they had against the Raiders. Bo Nix is starting to show flashes. Caleb Williams is starting to show flashes with the Bears. Jaden Daniels has probably been the best rookie QB. He's been playing every day. And there's people thinking Jaden Daniels is in MVP talks, the way he's been playing with the Commanders. I think it's time you let Drake May play. I think that's a great decision for the Patriots. Like I said, they're not going anywhere, but you drafted a QB 3rd overall. You got to see what he can do. Can't leave him on the bench all the time for Jacoby Brissett. No offense to Jacoby Brissett, but he's the perfect placeholder QB or a bridge QB.
And I think I also how about again? I hit my upset pick of the week. Jags. I picked the Jags to beat the Colts. 0-4 Jags division opponent. I had them to beat the Colts. They came in. They beat the Colts at home. First home game for the Jags in the throwback unis. Trevor Lawrence 371 yards. Tank Bigsby was the guy for them. He had 13 carries, 101 yards. Oh,
let it out.
Good upset pick of the week. You want to touch any games in particular to start this slate? It's a pretty good week of games.
I guess so. We already kind of talked about Bucks Falcons, and I kind of want to start with the Jets a little bit just because of the coaching news that came out. But I'll say this about the Jaguars, and I guess we could get into them later. But like, great win. I was all pro. They're firing Doug Peterson. He was going to be the first coach gone. I was incorrect. I wasn't expecting Robert Saleh to be fired yet. I was thinking end of the season.
Happy
they got him right out of there. But like you said about the Jaguars jerseys, those throwbacks with the Jaguar on the side,
tough.
We talked about the Lions new jerseys.
Best,
those Jaguars ones are very nice. But I want to look at the Jets Vikings. So they played
London game. Didn't watch this. Didn't watch this game. I'm not gonna lie.
Didn't even watch.
I saw the preview. I saw Aaron Rodgers throwing interceptions. He was seeing ghosts. He was seeing ghosts. Yeah, he sucks. So he's pretty bad.
This is a little spoiler for my winners losers of the week. I don't think Robert Saleh was part of the issue. I think it's Aaron Rodgers. People aren't blaming Aaron Rodgers for the New York Jets' struggles.
True.
Rodgers with 3 picks, and there was the crazy, I think it was Stephon Gilmore, the game-sealing interception in London. But like ever since Aaron Rodgers has been there, he was hurt all year last year. Their owner is going to do whatever Aaron Rodgers wants. And Aaron Rodgers hasn't been putting up these great numbers that a QB should be putting up that they think they're going to be leading them to a Super Bowl. For the Jets, it seems like with this Rodgers leadership, it's Super Bowl or bust every season. They're not a good team. They're not at all. Nathaniel Hackett should not have a job anymore. It's just because of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, Robert Saleh takes and then you see the stuff come out. He was escorted by the team's security out of the office. What the heck?
Was that real?
Yes. They escort him out with security out of their team offices, their team headquarters. Like, you didn't even get to say anything to the team. They just got him out of there. They took him out, escorted by the security. Like, I don't think that's a great way to treat a head coach. He was just doing his work for the day, and he just gets told you're gone. He went in. Nope. They got I saw that this morning. I was like, that's crazy to escort your former coach by security out of the office.
That might have been a troll. I think I know the troll account you saw that on.
No, they were selling that ESPN.
Really?
Yeah. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see.
I got
here.
got by
Yeah,
by
Fox
someone.
News. Jet security had to escort Robert Saleh
Wow.
out of team building according to
Okay.
reports.
There it is.
Yeah, they escorted him out. He just reported to work and he didn't
that's
know he was
crazy.
getting fired. They're 2-3. There's a lot, and I'll say this about the NFL this year: there's so many teams that are 3-2 and 2-3 right now. It's really wacky to me. I was thinking about there's a lot of teams underperforming, like the 49ers. In my opinion, the Eagles have underperformed. The Steelers are now 3-2. The Seahawks are now 3-2. Those teams were 3-0 at a point.
Yep.
But like the Bills are also 3-2. There's so many teams in the middle of the pack. The Jets are just 2-3. They're a team that can do stuff, but I don't think their coach was the problem. He was part of the problem. It's Aaron Rodgers has underperformed. He is not the Green Bay Packers Aaron Rodgers anymore. And I don't like First Take. I'll say this. But Shannon Sharp made a point of all people. He said it was along the lines of Peyton Manning and Tom Brady weren't getting their coaches fired at the end of their careers. No matter what. Bill Belichick was still there. The coaches of the Broncos were still there for Peyton Manning until he was gone. Brady didn't get anyone fired with the Bucks. Aaron Rodgers is already through one coach here in New York, and it's only year 2 in his first
Did it
full
in Green
year.
Bay.
Well, end of his career, that is. End of his career.
And he begged to get Mike McCarthy out of Green Bay.
I've never seen a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers beg for the coach to leave. It's like Aaron Rodgers
He's done it before. He did it with McCarthy.
He has the puppet strings of the owner on him. Like, I don't think this is like you see so many athletes, like everyone gives LeBron the whole spiel that he's la GM, la owner, but he doesn't do it on the aspect I think of Aaron Rodgers does. No one cares about Aaron Rodgers, what he does. I think Aaron Rodgers is the problem with the New York Jets, and not a lot of people talk about it. Like, everyone just ignores him.
I mean, Rodgers hasn't even been playing good. Rodgers had 3 interceptions. He had a QBR of 42.7. That's like horrible. He played horrible.
Sam Darnold didn't even have. Sam
Darnold didn't play good either.
This was his worst game this season, but I would argue he was better than Aaron Rodgers this week. He wasn't throwing the ball to any the other team. Like, I'm just looking at the stats and the highlights. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is the clear issue with the New York Jets, and they're going to place the blame. They need another wide receiver, and this is why I think they are going to get Devontae Adams, but just to please Aaron Rodgers, because like I said, he's pulling the puppet strings. Aaron Rodgers, you and I talked about it during the whole darkness retreat fiasco when he was still with the Packers before he went to the Jets during the whole trade rumors. He just has that weird mojo behind him. Like, he's like, oh, I'm the coach. I'm the owner. I'm the GM. I'm going to get whatever I want. And I am an avid. I'll say this. I do not like Aaron Rodgers. I know a lot of people do not like the guy. He's good, but I do not like him at all as a football player. He's just annoying. He gets whatever he wants. And I'm kind of happy to see the Jets where they are because they screwed over their team getting in Aaron Rodgers instead of like looking for the next franchise QB. Aaron Rodgers is not the franchise QB because he could retire at the end of the year, Danny. The Jets are going to the Jets always jet things. And this is another thing they're going to jet, I like to say. They're like Cleveland Browns, you could say, of the AFC East. The Patriots at least have won stuff. The Dolphins are at least have put up good records. The Bills are doing great things. The Jets are just mediocre. So I guess that's my spiel about the New York Jets. The whole news is they fired their coach, but like I'm more upset with how Aaron Rodgers has played for that team. He has not lived up to the hype.
He hasn't been the same since he was in Green Bay. And I mean, I know that there's only this to go off because he played 4 snaps, but even at the end of his Green Bay stint, he was like without Devontae Adams, he wasn't lighting up the scoreboards at all. He was solid because he had Matt LaFleur. But I mean, do I think Robert Saleh was the issue? No, I don't think Robert Saleh was a good coach. I think that he was on borrowed time regardless, because they brought him in when they didn't think that they were going to have anything. But now you have to ask a question: who the hell are you going to get now? Because Robert Saleh did a decent job. So now, who's better? You have to get someone better. Who's better than Saleh?
Saleh is good. Saleh can be a very good defensive coordinator. Don't get me wrong. He's a defensive-minded coach more so than an offensive-minded coach. Just seeing how Jets fans are reacting, a lot of them are saying he's more so defensive. He'd be a great coordinator. Imagine they get Matt Canada. That would be the funniest thing of all time. Matt Canada, head coach. from our PTSD.
Well, I
But
mean,
like, who else
now
is
I
there?
think this is big because this is a Jets team that wanted Devonta Adams. um, they wanted Devonta Adams. Now they're 2-3 and they're playing terribly. Why would Adams want to go to a team like the Jets or like the Saints that have also looked terrible?
Because of the puppet master Aaron Rodgers. He wants everything.
But
He just
I
wants
don't
to
know
make
if he's
his
going to
friend
get
happy.
Adams if they're playing this bad.
Well, also, they don't have a coach right now. I think they might have
True.
screwed themselves over for Devontae Adams, even though I
Yep.
think they're still going to get him because, like, Aaron Rodgers is going to be the one that decides who their next head coach is, I think. Their owner loves Aaron Rodgers.
But how long is Rodgers going to stay in New York for?
That's the thing. He's going to ruin that franchise.
Why are we letting him dictate who the future of this franchise when he's probably only going to be here 1 or 2 more years?
It's because Aaron Rodgers always gets what Aaron Rodgers wants, especially since he has so many MVPs. Everyone loves him, and he doesn't get as much like slack as he's deserved, in my opinion, in the NFL.
I'm not
The
a fan of
media
Aaron
doesn't
Rodgers.
the media doesn't like destroy Aaron Rodgers. They go after other guys first. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is destroying the New York Jets in these 2 years. Well, 1 year he's actually played. He was out all last year, and like the Jets sucked without him. I get it, but like the Jets right now with him are 2-3. He's not putting up great numbers, and everyone's gonna say, "Well, he's coming off an Achilles." Look at Kirk Cousins. He just put up 500 yards with the Falcons. He's coming off an injury like that.
True.
Like, there's no excuses for Aaron Rodgers. This guy's, I think, won 3 MVPs, if I'm not mistaken, and 2 in the last couple years. He's probably won more than 3, but at the top of my head. But, like, he's been winning MVPs. He's not playing like the Aaron Rodgers a lot of people know and love. So, like, I guess that's my spiel on the Jets. The Jets, I think, are worse than the New York Giants right now. The Giants have been playing good football these last couple games. Daniel Jones has even been waking up, and we'll talk about him later, I guess. But like, he's played pretty good football. I don't think people are giving him enough credit. But that's my spiel of the Jets. You got anything else about them?
Not really. I mean, yeah, they've got to figure it out now.
Mm-hmm.
Panthers, Bears. Touch on this briefly. Caleb Williams actually looked pretty good in this game, and I know we've been bashing Caleb Williams for a few weeks, but you know they're 3-2 now, and he actually looks solid. And I'm fully ready to eat my words on Caleb Williams, but I don't know if I'm ready to do that just yet. But 300 yards with 9 incompletions, no interceptions. He had an 83.9 QBR and a passer rating of 126. I mean, the dude looks really, really good. He finally started connecting with DJ Moore. Now, I just want to see his Keenan Allen connection kind of start to click a little bit more. Used Cole Kmet a little bit. Very happy with what I saw. If I was a Chicago fan, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, I guess I'll give a little bit of a talk about this one. I don't really have much to add. You kind of took everything, all my words. Caleb Williams, I never really was down on him. I thought he was I was expecting him to start to heat it up. It was the typical like rookie starting out slow. I know some of them just hit the ground running like a Jaden Daniels has. But Caleb Williams, he was the number 1 pick for a reason. He's already better than the Bryce Young pick. He's already beat that. He's already beat those bust allegations. Like, all it took was him getting connections with a wide receiver. DJ Moore, he's starting to click with him. I want to see him start to click with a guy like Keenan Allen as well, too. You brought him up. Roma Dunze, I want to see more out of him. Maybe Cole Kmet as well. But, like, him and DJ Moore, 105 yards, 5 receptions, 8 targets. Caleb Williams, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Caleb Williams is also 3-0 at home right now. I think the Bears are in a solid position in the NFC right now, especially in the wild card talks. I think the Lions are still going to win this division, but they're keeping up pace with the Packers and Lions. They're not leaving them behind. They're not, and even like the Vikings have been blowing everyone's expectations. Completely forgot about them because I wasn't expecting them to be this good. But the Bears, I think they're in a good spot with Caleb Williams. I don't think there's anything to worry about. The Panthers are always going to be the Panthers. Everyone's going to say, oh, they beat Carolina. Well, I mean, Carolina's looked better than they have the last couple weeks.
True.
In my opinion. They've looked way better with a Andy Dalton, but like, yes, they're still the Panthers, but I guess this is more so of the Bears look better than the Bears of the past. Caleb Williams is already 3-0 at home. He loves playing at home, I guess. And this guy, he's looked pretty decent. The Bears might have struck gold on their QB the way he's been playing. I guess he still has to play a full season, but like people are still wondering if they jumped too early on Justin Fields, and there's still fans that believe that. But like I think they're in a good spot. So I guess that's that's all I got about Bears Panthers. I thought that was a great game for Caleb Williams, and I guess I kind of want to jump to the game right below it on my ESPN thing. Ravens Bengals.
This was
This
a good game.
game
This was
of the
a very
year.
fun game.
Game of the year, in my
Whoa.
opinion. Already. Very
That
good.
might be ridiculous.
You don't think it's game of the year?
Year so far? No, not yet.
What's your game of the year?
I'd have to look back, but I mean, I don't think this was game of the year. I mean,
While you're looking back, this was a classic Joe Burrow versus Lamar Jackson. This is the Bengals, even though they lost. I'm not going to give either of these teams slack at all. I don't think the Bengals lose this game if they're playing another team. It was just the Ravens being the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Both teams made awful mistakes at the end. Don't get me wrong. Lamar Jackson with the fumble. Lamar was clapping his hands, missed it. What's the game?
Lions Rams Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football.
That was also a good game. This was just really high. I thought this was a good game just because it was
Yeah.
like the daytime spot. It had to compete. Well, both games were really good. But
Sure.
back to what I was saying. Both these teams had awful mistakes in overtime. You had the Lamar Jackson fumble while he's clapping for the ball, wanting the snap. He wasn't ready for it. Bengals get it, and they're in great territory. But then the Bengals' mistake here was just running the ball up the middle for short gains, playing very conservative, thinking you're getting the game-winning field goal. But then your punter comes in, and the snap is buffled or whatever, and he can't get the ball straight on the ground. McPherson goes far wide. He misses the kick. And then all it takes for the Ravens is a massive Derrick Henry 51-yard run to get them around to the 10-yard line. And then they just bring Justin Tucker out the next play to kick the game-winning field goal. So the Ravens win. They're 3-2. The Bengals are 1-4, which is like fine. I mean, 1-4, you look at it, they're like, oh, they stink. The Bengals they're 0-3 at home. Don't get me wrong, but they're looking way better than they have at home. This was a great game for Cincinnati. I don't think they have anything to be ashamed about. Joe Burrow looked his best he's been all year. I was kind of worried about how Joe Burrow has been playing so far, but he's looked absolutely amazing. 30 of 39 for 392, 5 touchdowns and a pick. Lamar looked really good as well, 26 of 42, 348 and 4 touchdowns. But then you also look at a guy that you're not high on, Jamar Chase. I think he's silencing a lot of the haters so far.
Yeah.
10 receptions, 12 targets, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns. His longest was a 70-yarder. I think Jamar Chase has finally woke up. Zay Flowers had a great game. He had 111. Rushing-wise, Chase Brown was kind of but Derrick Henry was like stealing the show. Even Mark Andrews got in on the fun, even though he still didn't get a touchdown. He at least had 55 yards. I like how they went to Charlie Kolar and Isaiah Likely, though, for touchdowns more so than Mark Andrews. As a Mark Andrews fantasy owner, I was loving the memes about it.
He got some love, huh?
He got some receptions, but like this was a great football game. And even though the Bengals lost, both these teams look really good. I think the Bengals are going to wake up. I know they're 1-4, but like they're going to wake up now. I think Joe Burrow's, they always have these slow starts.
This was easily Burrow's best game of the year. I mean, he almost threw for 400 damn passing yards. Jamar Chase with another monstrous game. How about Jamar Chase? Ever since I said this guy wasn't top 5, he's been top 5. Nice. Thanks, Jamar. I guess it really just took. I know he definitely listens to our podcast, so he definitely heard me. And now he is easily top 5 as of right now. He could fall off. I hope I'm right. But Jamar Chase has been playing out of his mind. I'll give credit where credit's due. Jamar Chase, 10 receptions for almost 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's been a freak recently. So good for him.
Yeah, this was a great game on both sides. I guess if there was one bad thing, it's the defenses. But like, I guess respect is where it's due. It's just 2 great quarterbacks having an old school matchup. These are 2 QBs that are going to be in the AFC North for a very long time, you could say. And yeah, the Ravens and Bengals, they look way better than what the Steelers and Browns look like, in my opinion, the way both those teams have been playing, even though the Steelers are 3-2. We'll get to them in a little bit, but Bengals, Ravens, you're saying Lions, Rams is your game of the year so far. I like that take. A lot of people like me are kind of shifting my game of the year over to this one. This was a great 1 o'clock game, and this honestly should have been a primetime game the way it went. This would have been, if this was a primetime game, I think be getting a lot more love.
Yeah.
But moving on, I don't know if you have anything else to add here, but I guess moving on, let's look at the scores. Any other? I guess let's jump to Jaguars Colts. I'm not really enticed by Dolphins, Patriots, or Browns, Commanders.
I do want to say something about the Browns, Commanders really quick.
Okay, go ahead.
When do we want to start discussing this? Because I can't believe the media is not, because the media loves a good quarterback controversy. They love it. And they also love Deshaun Watson talking about him. I mean, I think he has another charge, which is not surprising. But when are we going to start talking about we want to see Jameis Winston? We want to see Jameis Winston starting football games. Deshaun Watson had a QBR of, ready for this? 8.5
this season.
This game. 8.5 QBR this game. That is god awful. I mean, that is Landry Jones, Pittsburgh Steelers numbers.
Forgot about him.
Yeah, this guy sucks, and I mean, he's 1-4. If you're a Browns fan, I'm like, okay, the whole Deshaun Watson experiment didn't work. We shouldn't have got rid of Baker Mayfield because he's balling like crazy right now. Let's just move on. Let's eat our loss. Now, I think Deshaun Watson's probably a better option than Jameis Winston is, but why not just see it? Deshaun Watson would be a great backup quarterback. But you got to make some change, and I think that this Browns team just isn't good enough. They're just not good enough. They don't have, I mean, Nick Chubb, I think, should be coming back soon, whenever. So, I mean, I guess that is a leg up that they'll have. Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy hasn't done anything coming to Cleveland. A lot of Browns fans thought, okay, this guy Jerry Jeudy is going to come to Cleveland. He's going to light the world on fire. Finally, we got another receiver. No, he's been terrible. Jordan Atkins was your second leading receiver. It's just not clicking in Cleveland. I love to see it. I hate Deshaun Watson. He sucks. And do you think that we should start talking? Is it time to start Jameis Winston?
What do you think I'm going to say? Yes, it is time for Jameis Winston. I am pro-free Jameis Winston. I think they should just move on from Jameis Winston if they're going to do this to him all year. And let me just say this. Some of the media I have been seeing waking up saying, like, it's the QB's fault. I think it was Good Morning Football is talking about it, saying, like, it's clearly Jameis Winston. Not Jameis Winston, Deshaun Watson. I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry, Jameis Winston. I would never do that to you. Deshaun Watson. It's clearly Deshaun Watson's fault. And let me just say this. It was post-game. And I'm happy we're talking about this game now because I wanted to say this. Post game, Coach of the Year Kevin Stefanski is going out saying, "Oh, we just got to keep playing well. We're not taking a change at quarterback." Okay, Mr. Coach of the Year, keep playing Deshaun Watson and losing these games. You are now 1-4, bottom of the AFC North. You're lucky the Bengals lost this week, so both you guys are 1-4. The Browns should be in sole possession right now of last place in the AFC North. They are lucky they have a win this season. They really are. Mr. Coach of the Year, Kevin Stefanski, I'm going to speak for all Browns fans as a Pittsburgh Steelers fans. Switch your quarterback, man. Switch him. Don't worry. He's holding your franchise hostage with all the money you're paying him, the overpriced contract you gave the guy. Deshaun Watson is an absolute bum. He's a bum of a football player. He's not good. He is not a good quarterback. You brought up he had a QBR of 8 point what? Just an 8.5? What on earth? That's Kenny Pickett levels of suck.
Kenny Pickett was way better than that. I'm serious.
Like that's levels of trash. Why is Jameis Winston even on this team? You're not going to let him play next week. Free Jameis Winston.
Kenny Pickett. Trade for Kenny.
Could you imagine if Kenny Pickett was traded?
Better option. Played better lot. Kenny Pickett
had way better stats last year than Deshaun Watson's having right now.
I could imagine the toxicity of the Steelers fan base going into the Browns comments. Imagine if Kenny Pickett becomes a Cleveland Brown and goes into Pittsburgh and beats
Then
the
I would
Steelers.
actually probably not like Kenny. I still have a little bit of love for Kenny. I would not like Kenny if he was in the Browns.
Oh my goodness.
Full hate.
But like this dude's and also I'll say this about Deshaun Watson. He was sacked 7 times. 7.
Yeah, that's a lot.
7.
He's not getting help. He's just not getting help either. That's another thing. But good quarterbacks don't need as much help as that.
And I'll say this too about the Browns. If they're still bad by trade deadline, I think they need to trade Amari Cooper away. Get some draft picks. Amari Cooper's good trade bait. He is really good trade bait. Amari Cooper has a lot of talent. I think he's a very underrated wide receiver in this league right now. Not a lot of talk about him. If he has a better QB, he's putting up way better numbers. This team's problems is not the defense, in my opinion, are not the wide receivers, are not the running backs. It's the man behind center. It's the quarterback. It clearly is. Everyone sees it. It's just the Cleveland Browns can't make the switch because they're being held hostage by that contract. It's like the Giants and Daniel Jones. But you know who at least has been putting up solid numbers these last few weeks, I guess, even when they're losing? Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones has been better this season than Deshaun Watson. I can say that easily. So I guess that's what I got about the Browns. I'm happy we talked about this one because Deshaun Watson, it's time. It's time for you to become a bench quarterback this season. You deserve to ride the bench. If you're listening to this,
He does.
Like you deserve it. I think Browns fans are begging for it. And it's the most Cleveland Browns thing to do to let your guy who you gave up on in Baker Mayfield. Everyone gave up on Baker. And now look at Baker Mayfield. He went to the Panthers, the Rams, and now he's found a forever home with Tampa Bay. He's winning playoff games with Tampa Bay. You gave up on Baker Mayfield just because he stunk, I think, for 1 year at the time. You gave up on him so quick. So, Cleveland Browns fan base, I'm sorry to say this, but your team deserves it the way you treated Baker Mayfield. Your ownership sucks. Your coach of the year won't make the switch to Jameis Winston because he's too scared to admit Deshaun Watson stinks. So, this team aggravates me, not just because I hate the Browns, but, it's a fact. It's a clear fact. My bias towards the Steelers aside, this team stinks, and it's the quarterback's issue. I want to see a world where the Browns are competitive with the AFC North. I think it's more fun when they're competitive.
Yeah.
It makes for good football games, and they're just not having a good start, and I think they're deserving of the start the way that Deshaun Watson has been playing. So
skip over Dolphins Patriots. That game was just boring.
Yeah.
No one cares. Colts Jags.
Doug Peterson lives another week.
I've hammered some solid upsets this year. Solid upset pick of the week. Jacksonville Jaguars looked good. Looked really good. Trevor Lawrence finally looked good. He looked like the quarterback that I know Trevor Lawrence is, the guy that I believed in. I've never stopped believing in Trevor Lawrence. I know a lot of people have. I think he's still just such a stud. 371 passing yards, 1 interception, though, 2 touchdowns. QBR was a 79.2. Also, when I say Trevor Lawrence is a stud, I'm not saying this guy is a top 5 quarterback. I'm saying he is a good, confident quarterback in the National Football League, and he is, and he will be for a long time. Now, the targets around him are terrible. I mean, Christian Kirk should not be a solid wide receiver, too. And then after that, you Gabe Davis. Sucks. And Tank Bigsby, they're finally trusting in him more than Travis Etienne. I think Travis Etienne's career is done. It's over.
Yeah, I feel like the Jaguars have a weird thing with running backs. They had Leonard Fournette, I think, for a while.
Yeah.
And he as well is not in the NFL anymore. I think went to the Bucks after. But Travis Etienne Jr. was kind of on the levels of mid. He's really hyped up, but he reminds me of Najee Harris. He just doesn't put up great numbers every week. I think he's like a B and C tier running back. He's not A or an elite. We need to do a running back tier, by the way. I think we should do that on Friday. Sure. But Tank Bigsby's been putting up great numbers for the Jaguars. Of all people, I was not expecting him to have the great year he's been having. But there's a guy you didn't bring up with the wide receivers, and I'll say it, Brian Thomas Jr. Everyone who watches this knows I am high on this guy. I think he's a Rookie of the Year candidate easily. I think he was one of the best wide receivers taken in this class. 5 for 122, a touchdown, 8 targets. Trevor Lawrence found his number one. They struck gold on Brian Thomas Jr., in my opinion. He's been great, just like Malik Neighbors. I think he's been better than Marv. I know Marv had the great game, but Marvin Harrison's been kind of silent these last couple weeks. Brian Thomas Jr. does not get as much love from the national fans of the NFL than he deserves. It's all Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors. Where's all the Brian Thomas Jr. love in the NFL? I think he's the most underrated pick of this draft. The Jaguars struck gold with him. He's a great
6th in receiving yards in the NFL right now.
Yeah, he's up. He's higher than some of the stars of the NFL right now. Brian Thomas Jr., we put him in future stars in our ranking for a reason. He's looking like if he can put up these numbers year 1, all year 2, he might be a top 5 in some point of his career the way he's been playing. I like this guy. LSU put out some great wide receivers in this class, him and Malik Neighbors. Even their quarterback, Jayden Daniels, LSU had a great year for the NFL draft. Yep. But the Colts, I'll go to the Colts, though. They lost this game, but I have a question for Colts, fans that are watching this, or I'll ask you. You're a big Anthony Richardson guy.
Yes.
Joe Flacco is putting up 359 yards and a loss, 3 touchdowns. Anthony Richardson's injury issues have been interesting. And when he's played, he's had some flashes, but it's like he'll have some letdowns too.
Yeah.
Like Joe Flacco got the Cleveland Browns to the playoffs. Joe Flacco
True.
right now, he had a 21-yard rush. Joe Flacco, let me look at his age very quick. I don't have it at the top of my head. 39 years old. He's outperforming, in my opinion, their first-round pick a year ago, and Anthony Richardson when he's healthy. The way he's been playing so far, do you think Joe Flacco starts for them with Richardson is healthy?
0.000% chance. No.
You don't
That'll
think Joe
never happen.
Flacco's playing?
No. Richardson's just the way better option, and he struggled a little bit, but I mean, just look at like the skill set of them. Like Richardson has way better arm. He is mobile. It's just Flacco just has more experience. That's all it is, and Richardson just needs to adapt a little bit better. But there's no way that they would ever start a healthy Flacco over a healthy Richardson ever.
Even if Anthony Richardson starts underperforming, you
Ever.
don't think?
Nope. Richardson's their guy. He's shown
I
that
get
he's
it.
their guy. He's shown flashes of being amazing.
But there's also been a lot of flashes he hasn't been showing he's amazing.
Yeah, but that's with every quarterback.
That is true. But like,
He's also technically a rookie. Not
Yeah.
really, but like this is his first full year. He played like not even 5 games last year.
I like what Nicholas just said. If you let him get chill in the pocket, he's going to dice you up.
Yeah.
Steelers saw that last week. Steelers saw it. The Jaguars saw it this week, even though the Jaguars won this game. I think the Colts in the back of their head, if Anthony Richardson starts to struggle when healthy, I think they might jump to Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco
for
is
him.
going to be just the new Nick Foles. I'll tell you what. Everyone just thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread because he wins as a backup. He's
He's getting them wins.
Joe Flacco is never an elite quarterback in the NFL ever. When he was on the Ravens, he was always just such a game manager. It's just
Listen,
ugh.
if you're a Joe Flacco fan, which I don't hate Joe Flacco, but you can always say he has a Super Bowl ring.
He
I guess
does.
you could
That
throw
was
that in
carried by
argument.
one of the best defenses of all time. So
That defense was awesome. Ray Lewis.
Yep.
I think Ed Reed at the time, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Great defense for the Baltimore Ravens. I could say that as a Steelers fan, but I think Joe Flacco deserves his
One of
flowers.
the best ever. Yeah.
But moving on, this was a great game, and I'll say this: Doug Peterson saved himself this week. I thought he was going to be the
Easily.
first coach fired. If Doug Peterson were to lose this week and they're 0-5, I think he's gone.
I think we
but
could
he's
still
still
see him
there.
get fired at the end of the year for sure.
Yeah, especially if they don't turn it around. I think if they lose a couple more games in this first few stretch, I'm curious. Let's look at their schedule coming up. I said this was a big when we did this show on Friday. This was a big schedule coming up. Home against the Colts, home against the Bears, home against the Patriots, home against the Packers. 4 home games in a row. You have a chance to save your season. I think
Yes,
the
you do.
Jaguars can win all of those games. I think
I
they can
agree.
beat the Green Bay Packers. I know they can beat the New England Patriots. I think they might have a good game against the Bears this coming week. I think this is going to be a great football game on the 13th.
This is the best 0-4 team in a while. I mean, they
like the
barely
Bengals.
were losing games. I think, yeah, the Bengals are a better football team than the Jags, but this is not a good Jaguars team. I don't know why I said this is good, but this is not a terrible team. They're 1-4, sure. They've lost a few unlucky games, especially against the Texans. They probably should have won that game. They've just come up short a few times, and
Yeah.
I don't think Trevor Lawrence's head needs to be on the chopping block like everyone says it needs to be. So Trevor Lawrence really balled out this week, and I was pretty happy to see that.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on, is there a couple of, I know we do want to talk Steelers, Cowboys. That might take a little bit of time for me to
Yeah.
get my stuff out of the way. Any other games that kind of caught your mind? This was a good week. This was a good sports weekend in general.
Let's
Texans beat the
touch
Bills.
on 1 or 2 more games, and then get into Steelers. That's gonna take
So
a while.
do you want to pick one and then I'll pick one?
Yeah, let's do Texans Bills.
Okay, let's do that one first.
Yeah, I'm
So-
never going to be mad about the Texans winning a football game. CJ Stroud, 331 yards. He balled out. Stephon Diggs revenge game. You see Stephon Diggs hit Josh Allen with a little side eye after the game?
Yeah.
Little
Yeah.
side eye. Stephon Diggs outperformed all of Buffalo's receivers, which was fun to watch. Yeah. just I don't know. I don't like Stephon Diggs, but I like revenge games, and in a sense, this is a revenge game for Stephon Diggs, and I think he kind of showed out. No touchdown for Diggs, but Josh Allen went down with a scary injury, and then he hit a smelling salt, and he was back out ready to go. So that was sick.
The most Josh Allen thing of all time.
Honestly, I think I'm ready to talk about James Cook being a very elite running back. I think dude is so good. This guy is so good.
Yeah,
every week, 82 yards on 20 carries.
Yeah, Nicholas just brought up Nico Collins as well. Him going down.
Nico Collins got hurt. I think it was a hamstring injury. I think they said he shouldn't. It's not going to be that bad, but I just hope he's not out for that long. Let's see if there's an update. That could be a
big loss, but like Stephon Diggs is going to start stepping up too if that is a big loss. While you're looking that up, I'll say this: this is a great game. I think the Bills ruined their chance at the end with that.
You can miss multiple weeks. Wow, yeah, that sucks.
Like, why was the Bills coaching staff throwing it on their own end zone, 3 straight downs, and giving the Texans an easy field goal?
Yeah, that was
50+ yarder. That's
Steelers football right there. That is Steelers.
That's what you would call as a Steelers fan a Tomlin special. Yeah. I'll talk about Josh Allen a little bit here. Josh Allen, this is probably his worst game I think I've seen him play.
I agree.
9 completions, 30 attempts, 131 yards. Yes, he had a touchdown, but 9 completions out of Josh Allen, a guy that's in MVP talks. I think his MVP talks kind of tanked this week. A lot of guys are starting to surge, and he's starting to decline these last 2 games. But he's still going to be in the MVP talks. Don't get me wrong, but people are going to look back at this game and be like, I don't know, 9 completions. I'm not really excited about the 9 completions if I'm a Josh Allen for MVP fan. But this was a great game. The Bills were 3-0. They're now 3-2. They're like a couple other teams like the Seahawks and Steelers in the same boat of being undefeated and magically being 3-2. The Bills have not been a good road team. They're 1-2 on the road. The Texans, on the other hand, have been a great team at home. Now they're undefeated, 3-0. They only have 1 loss. It's on the road. So this was a great game. I like that you picked this one because, like you said, the Stephon Diggs revenge game, he only had 82 yards, no touchdowns, but he went 6 for 8 on his targets. And the whole side-eye thing to Josh Allen. Josh Allen went to go say congrats. Didn't really get anything out of the guy. With the Nico Collins thing going down, I'm expecting a guy like Stephon Diggs to get way more. I'm expecting Tank Dell to maybe get way more involved than he has. Remember, he was supposed to be the next big thing for Texans last year. Then he got hurt at the end of the season. We haven't really been seeing a lot of Tank Dell this season because Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs have been stealing the show. I'm very curious to see if Tank Dell can get all that hype back. Dalton Schultz as well. He's in that consideration as well for a receiver to get a lot. But like the Bills, I'm looking at this game being like, you should have been better. This is a game they should have won or could have won, in my opinion. They easily should have won it too, because I think the Bills have a better QB than CJ Stroud. I think Josh Allen's better than CJ Stroud on paper, and he's been having the better season, in my opinion. But the Bills, I think they just underperformed in all aspects, and that's why they lost this game. So that's why I got with that one.
All right. Should we move on to what game? What other game you want to touch on before Steelers Cowboys here?
I would pick Niners Cardinals, but like since I picked that as my upset of the week, or no, we both picked that as our lock of the week.
Lock of the week was Niners. Yeah.
But the Niners lose. I don't really want to talk about that one because that honestly was a trap game for the Niners. It couldn't, like, they're too injured. Packers Rams was okay. Giants Seahawks was okay. The Seahawks did not look good these last 2 games. I want to talk Chiefs Saints.
All right.
Last night. And I'll just say this. I brought up this question. I made a reel, a TikTok or whatever, when I brought up the Saints' upcoming schedule. We can see if they're legit or not. They were 2-0 at the time. I said these next 4 games were going to be a test to see if the Saints are going to be a real team. It was the Eagles, Falcons, Chiefs, and Bucks. So far, they're 0-3 on that 4-game stretch. They lost to the Eagles 15-12, the Falcons 26-24, 2 very close games, and this one they were just outmatched 26-13. The Saints, I don't think they're legit. I'm sorry. The way their offense was cooking the first 2 weeks, it was amazing. Their offense completely died these last 3 weeks, in my opinion. And I agree with Nicholas. I am tired of seeing Taylor Swift on the screen when I'm watching football. But like Derek Carr these past few weeks starting to look like the Derek Carr I know. He's not throwing like Derek Carr is never a guy, in my opinion, that's throwing like 300 yards a week like he was earlier. He's forever in that 200 yards or 160 to 240 yards per game limbo. He's an okay quarterback. He's not elite. He's kind of like that B tier quarterback, in my opinion. And he's starting to show those signs. Like Rashid Shaheed is starting to slow down a little bit. I know he went 4 for 9 on his targets, 86 yards and the touchdowns. Like Alvin Kamara has also been slowing down. He did not have a great game. 11 for 26 rushing. His longest was 9. That's a Najee Harris type of stat line. Have I ever seen it? Maybe Najee has less rushing yards than that. But I guess the big takeaway was like Kareem Hunt is now a Kansas City Chief again. He killed it. I should have got him on fantasy. And Juju Smith-Schuster getting 130 yards in a game was so funny. And like Nicholas just said, where on earth is Chris Olave?
Yeah.
This is the big
for
story.
sure.
This is the big story for. I completely forgot about this one. I saw
one target.
About it.
What do you have? How many targets do you have? He had
2 receptions, 4 targets, 10 yards. His longest was 6. You could put like a missing sign. Where on earth is Chris Olave? The Saints
would have had a 30-yard catch, but it was called back for.
Yeah,
he would have had a 30-yard catch, but it was called back. So I think if that happens, we're not talking about this. But yeah, Chris Olave had a straight up bad game. Just got clamped.
Yeah. The Saints offense has been silent these last 3 weeks. I know they put up some good points against the Falcons in their loss, but like they went silent against the Eagles and they kind of went silent this week against the Chiefs, and their rushing attack was very good, but Kamara's starting to slow down, especially this game. And like Patrick Mahomes hasn't been lighting the world on fire, in my opinion, the way he hasn't been throwing any passing touchdowns.
Leads the league in interceptions.
Yeah, this has not been the greatest Patrick Mahomes season, but they're still winning. Like I said, you never doubt the Kansas City Chiefs. I think you picked the Saints, actually. If I went back, I think you might have picked the Saints. Too. And I said, you can't, it's still Patrick Mahomes. And Travis Kelce, no touchdowns, but he looked better. I had a feeling he was going to get more targets. He led with 10. He lost Rashee Rice, and that clears the room for Travis Kelce to get all these receptions. And what on earth, what kind of game was Juju having? 7 for 8, and he had 130
Feels like we're
yards.
back in 2017 with Juju Smith-Schuster and Kareem Hunt being capable.
He had the we had the fat man touchdown, the one, well, not touchdown, but the return. It hit off of Juju's
helmet,
fire. I think it was.
That was fire.
He could have had a touchdown, but that was, I think Kevin Harlan called it the thick pick instead of the pick 6. It was on the radio or whatever. But Juju Smith-Schuster, props to him. He looked like prime rookie year, sophomore year Steelers Juju this game.
Yeah.
But other than that, the Chiefs, I get the hate. I get the memes with the refs, but they're the Chiefs. You can never undervalue the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. The Saints, they're 0-3 during this 4-game stretch so far that I said a couple weeks ago is going to be very important to tell if they are a real team. I think the Saints can still be competitive in this NFC South, but it does not look good so far. They have the Bucs coming up. They have the Broncos coming up, at the Chargers, at the Panthers. They could easily save this season, but I think they're going to lose to the Bucs this coming week. We can get to that on Friday, but I do want to discuss the elephant in the room. I think we both want to talk about it. Steelers, Cowboys.
Steelers here. Justin Fields, is it over? Is the Justin Fields era over? Is it time to start Russ?
I'll say this. The quarterback controversy is starting again in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Russell Wilson is supposedly, if you're not following Steelers quarterback controversy, the whole thing is, if you're not a Steelers fan, I'm looking at this as a Steelers fan right now. The whole thing is, it's they're saying Russell Wilson is unhealthy. He's clearly healthy, and he's supposedly actually going to be a full participant. I'll say this in quotes, participant on Wednesday practices, on their full rundowns or whatever. He's going to be a participant. But then in the Tomlin press conference, I think he said along the lines of they're preparing for Justin Fields to start. Mike Tomlin absolutely loves Justin Fields. He loved Justin Fields out of Ohio State. But here's the thing. Justin Fields has not really been turning over the football. I'll give him that. This was not a good Justin Fields game. He still had 2 touchdowns, but I don't think it was that good. Only 131 yards. Dak Prescott completely outdid them. I did pick the Cowboys to win this game, and reasoning was their wide receivers were just getting open. The Steelers' secondary was awful, even though they had some picks. It was just the Cowboys being stupid. And the Steelers' offense, what couldn't they do off the Cowboys' mistakes? Capitalize. Every time they just couldn't do anything. At one point, I think they were like 1 for 8 on third down. I was up at 11:30. It was a halftime at 11:30. I stayed up till 1 a.m. to watch this game, and the Steelers lost in the final 40 seconds. Like, that was the most Steeler way. I was getting PTSD before it happened from the Ezekiel Elliott game where the Cowboys won that. And what happened? Same exact thing type of game. They won it in the final seconds. So, and Tomlin was wasting timeouts. Why were you giving the Cowboys extra time? I do want to ask that. Like, that was a Tomlin special right there. But to the Justin Fields and Russell Wilson debate, I think Justin Fields is starting this next week. But I think if it goes bad, we see Russell Wilson at halftime if it's a bad half like this past week. Justin Fields, these last 2 games, and even the game against the Chargers, they won. It took about till halftime to get going. We need to see the Steelers offense like start to click in the first half. It can't be a second half only offense. This is the thing with the Steelers every year. It's literally the same team as last year. The offenses looked better, but it's still not good. Like Arthur Smith at least has implanted. So we saw in the first week, they were actually using Najee as the power back. Najee hasn't been performing that well since. They're actually getting passing touchdowns, I could say. They're getting in the end zone. They're just not doing enough. And I'll say this about the Steelers, and I'll hand it over back to you because I have something else I want to talk about. I don't want to take a lot of time from you. It's the whole, they run the whole philosophy. Defense will win us the football game. This is a prime example of why you can't do that. You can't trust your defense to win it every week for you. We saw last week, the defense allowed 17 unanswered to the Indianapolis Colts. And then this offense slowly came back, but the defense is gassed out. They can't keep you in the game. It was this game too. The offense slowly creeps back in the game. They get the lead. The Cowboys score again. The defense is just gassed because guess who can't stay on the field long enough? The offense. Mike Tomlin needs to input like a strategy or something to keep that offense on the field longer than what they have. He needs to talk to Arthur Smith or something because that is the Steelers cannot play the type of football where they're playing conservative. Like, we're going to trust the defense and our kicking to win us football games. The defense looked good, but it also looked really bad at points. Beanie Bishop had an awful game. He was smoked all day. Minkah Fitzpatrick made some dumb mistakes. Like, I'm not even going to bring up the Elliott slip because that was just a rough crossing route that gave the Cowboys touchdown. Elliott has looked great this year. Like, I'm not even going to blame him for that. It was just because slippery field, 1. Number 2, that is a tough play to defend. But, like, you can't trust the defense to win these games. And I do want to talk about someone, but I'm going to hand it off to you before I go off for another, 5 minutes. But, yeah,
I think that last week I said this about Najee Harris. Dude, where are you at? We're okay, Najee's never had a big run. His longest run was 6 yards today, or not today, Sunday night. He had 42 yards on 14 carries. Dude, that's horrible. That's horrible. That's bad. And he's averaging three yards per carry, and he's only getting 14 carries. Why is Aaron Shampkin, and Jonathan Ward getting carries in this game? Najee Harris should have had at least 20 carries. And Nicholas said it down there. Yeah, Warren's out. Najee's not getting the carries. Najee, I think, was the biggest bum of this game. They didn't run him enough. And then where the hell was George Pickens all game? He was on the field for, ready for this, 18% of snaps. George Pickens. That's your best offensive weapon. Why is he out there for 18% of snaps? You were just losing football games that way, coaching-wise. Now, I'm not a guy who thinks Tomlin needs to be fired. I'm a pro-Tomlin guy. I love Tomlin. But figure it out. It's not hard. It's not hard at all. Figure it out.
I'll say, and you're leaning right into what I want to talk about. George Pickens. So we talked about Najee Harris this past episode, the whole thing with the fans. He was jawing at Colts fans, and then he put up those numbers. When I saw the picture on live video, George Pickens wearing the eye black, you know what I'm talking about? Always effing open. For someone to be wearing that eye black, all hype, and putting up the numbers of 3 receptions, 7 targets, and 26 yards. 26 yards for a guy that's saying what is on his nose, always effing open. That's big talk for someone that's only putting up 26 yards. This is supposed to be the Steelers wide receiver one. And I'll say this about there's the whole thing. Like, I think something's going on behind the scenes. I'm not trying to rile things up in the media world. I'm not going to do that. But hearing post game, I don't know if you saw the whole thing of snap and load management for George Pickens. He's now in year 3.
The NBA now?
Yeah, he is in year 3. Why is Van Jefferson, Connor Hayward of all people getting more targets than George Pickens? Connor Hayward had 4 targets but almost had more yards than George Pickens. He seemed to be out there more. Van Jefferson was out there more than George Pickens. Cam Hayward, one of the oldest dudes on the defense, was having more snaps out there than George Pickens. It is year 3 of George Pickens, and it's every year this type of drama starts to come out of the guy. I love George Pickens, don't get me wrong, but I think there's something going on behind the scenes and Mike Tomlin in his press conference today doubled down on the whole. We're limiting his, like, it's a snap count. We're limiting his load management to make him healthier or whatever. Why? What is going on? I've never seen this out of like have to have this excuse and the coach having to double down. People are thinking something behind the scenes. There was the whole like Gabali thing that came out saying he was writing how like some like I think it was their new punter. A player was talking to Pickens or whatever, and they just moved down the bench to the punter to go talk to him instead. They left Pickens by himself. Pickens does not look happy. And to wear the always effing open eye black and he puts up those numbers, I just laugh at that. And I'm a Steelers fan. That just makes me upset too, because you're talking all this smack and you're getting absolutely murdered by the defense. And then there was the whole thing after the game where the Dallas Cowboys guy got in his face, which I'll say it was funny, but like he torched you all game long and you're just going to grab his face mask and just knock him to the ground. I'm happy like people find that funny, which I think it is as well. But like Pickens, George Pickens, we love you in Pittsburgh, but you're just not putting up great numbers. He's so hyped up too, Danny. Like people hype up George Pickens so much, but he's made a lot of stupid mistakes. We saw last week against the Colts, he had the fumble in the end zone. He should have a lot of touchdowns this year. Yes, a lot of them were called back, but he still doesn't have one. And like Nicholas just brought up a good point. Who would you rather have out of these guys? DJ Moore, Pickens or DJ Moore? Pickens or Drake London's? Pickens or George T. Higgins? Pickens or Stephon Diggs? I'm taking the latter on all of those, maybe except for Drake London. I'd rather have T. Higgins, Stephon Diggs, and DJ Moore.
I'd rather have Pickens over DJ Moore. I'd rather have Pickens over Higgins. I would rather have London and Diggs over Pickens right now.
It's just the whole thing. Like, I don't see a guy can go out there and be like, say, I'm always effing open and put up the numbers he did.
Not always.
I think it's
but I think that George Pickens needs to be a guy because we know the type of receiver he is. When you're in doubt, just throw it his way, bro. He's going to come down with it. He's going to get a hand on the ball. He is a freak of nature athlete. George Pickens, it's not even that he's not open. There's so many times where he is open and he's not getting the ball. He is almost always kind of open and they don't throw him the ball. It's because the design schemes, the Pittsburgh Steelers have never had designed plays where it is anything more than 10 yards down the field. They don't throw in the middle of the field. A lot of George Pickens routes his maximum separation is in the middle of the field. When he's running those posts or those kind of deep crossers, your maximum separation is in the middle of the field. Steelers don't throw the ball to the middle of the field. They never have. Mm-hmm. That's why Pat Freiermuth never gets targets, never gets catches because he's open in the middle of the field. Pat Freiermuth had a big that one big catch from Kyle Allen, 19-yard catch from Kyle Allen.
He threw it down the field. Middle of the field. Freiermuth had a touchdown, but it was a shovel pass.
It's quarterbacking. It's quarterbacking.
Quarterbacking is a big reason why Pickens is struggling. It's a huge reason.
I'll agree with Nicholas what he just put in the chat if you can pull that up. Like, I think a lot of people see this out of the Steelers. You said Pickens, I'm thinking, is a tad overrated. His hype is higher than he is good. Don't get me wrong. He makes incredible catches. He just isn't as good as he's thought out to be right now. Something has got to change.
Yeah.
Pickens has the drama issues too. It's every year. I think it's starting early this year. I think there's something going on behind the scenes. This whole load management thing, I guess, quote, load management that Mike Tomlin says, it doesn't make sense. This is a guy that usually gets the most targets on the team, and it just out of nowhere, load management on prime time. I don't know. And like this, they're not getting rid of him, but like I think it's going to be at the point. It's like they're going to be like, maybe George Pickens wants out. I hope that's not what happens, but George Pickens gives me the vibes, Danny, that he's going to be the type of wide receiver that's going to be like the I want money and want out and demand contracts. I don't know. And like, I think George Pickens, like, I'm really high on him. I think he's a great wide receiver. I think he is a good wide receiver. I don't think he's overrated. It's just like he doesn't perform as like the hype gives him. He has great catches. He has a lot of great receptions, but like he doesn't put up amazing numbers. He's not getting the end zone. And yet, yes, again, it's the offense not getting him the ball a lot, but like when he gets the ball, some stupid stuff can happen, especially that fumble we saw last week. Like Nicholas just said again, it has to be the overall play design for him to succeed. I know you're a big Pickens guy. I still like George Pickens, but it's like this was a really frustrating game for someone that likes George Pickens because it's every single year where something stupid happens out of this. So I'll throw it back to you. I don't know if you have any like closing thoughts, but like that's kind of like what I wanted to talk about with this game. Like it's just every year this happens with Pickens.
No, yeah, we've got to figure it out somehow. The Steelers offense, it's got to click at some point. It's not clicking. They need another receiver. Hopefully, it can be Devontae Adams. I don't see it happening, but it's just never going to change until we get another receiver or a solid quarterback. And Justin Fields has been solid. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's used his legs well. He's made solid throws. Looks better than Kenny Pickett did. So I don't think it's necessarily fully the quarterbacking, but now it's the wide receiver core. And once we get a wide receiver, then Najee's going to go. And then it's going to be the running back game. And then we're going to have no running game. Because the reason our running game can't work is because our receiving game doesn't work. Yeah. So we can't just run because they know we're going to run because we can't throw the damn ball.
I also want to know where Roman Wilson is.
We gotta be more well-rounded. So that's the whole NFL slate. Do you want to touch on any other games? We're at an hour 12 here, so I don't.
We got winners and losers.
Yeah, if we want to do our winners and losers here.
Yeah, we'll talk winners.
I'll let you go first.
Okay, so I think in the future we're gonna start getting into NBA and MLB stuff, just because we went really long today. And I'll just add this with the Steelers very quick. Like I'm starting to think they won't even go after another wide receiver at this point. I think they're going to be content with where they are, and I think that's a huge loss in the Omar Khan side of things because he's been a great GM, but like he used a lot of money on Patrick Queen, and I've not really been excited about how Patrick Queen has played. But I think the Steelers messed up this offseason, wasting all their time on Brandon Ayuk. I think they missed out on a lot of guys. But moving on, winners and losers. Let's start with the winners while you're looking at yours. I got Kirk Cousins. He had 509 passing yards. I talked about him last Friday. 4 touchdown passes. I'm not even going to talk about the interception he had because that game was a great game out of him. You look at 509 passing yards. That's elite type of numbers. He led the Falcons to a big win over the Bucs Thursday Night Football. Number 2, I had Caleb Williams and the DJ Moore connection. We just talked about it. These guys are starting to click these last few games. It had an amazing game versus the Panthers. Moore at 105 yards and 2 touchdowns from Williams, who is starting to show a lot of flashes. Caleb Williams starting to arrive. Bengals versus Ravens. I put Bengals versus Ravens as a winner of the week. I said this is game of the year candidate. Joe Burrow with 5 touchdowns, Lamar with 4, Jamar Chase with 193 yards and 2 touchdowns, Derrick Henry with a touchdown and the game-sealing run in OT of 51 yards, Zay Flowers 111 receiving yards, and plus Mark Andrews finally got the ball. Still no touchdown. But still, this is a great football game. I put both of them in the winners of the week, even though the Bengals lost. Number 4, I talked about it a little bit. I put Joe Flacco. Even though he lost, I called him all reliable. Even in the loss, he put up massive numbers against the Jaguars. 33 of 44 with 359 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He averaged 8.2 yards a throw. I don't know how he does it, but even in losses, teams can't stop him. I put Anthony Richardson better learn to be consistent when he comes back because Joe Flacco is putting up way better numbers than he has this year. We talked about it a little bit earlier. I need to see more from Richardson. I think he's going to put a lot of pressure on him. It might propel him to be better than what he has. And then number 5, I talked about it a little bit as well. I put Juju Smith-Schuster last night. no touchdowns, and probably had one of the best games of his career on Monday Night Football. 7 recs for 130 yards. He has my permission to hit the Corvette one more time in his NFL career in Kansas City. An honorable mention just because I put Jaguars winning a football game. Lawrence looked awesome, and the Cards beating the Niners. Let's go to your winner.
My first winner of the week, I got one of yours, is Juju Smith-Schuster. What a week for Juju. It says Juju / Kareem Hunt. How about just tapping back into 2017? Juju and Kareem Hunt are just solid again. Kareem Hunt getting another chance in Kansas City. He actually did pretty good. 20 carries for 101 yards or something like that. He had a very, very good game, as well as Juju with 130 yards. Great game from those Chiefs standpoint. Jaden Daniels, again, is just such a stud. And he led his team in passing and rushing yards again. He had 82 rushing yards, and he obviously had like 250 passing yards and a touchdown. The dude is just a stud, and they're 4-1. This team is just looking like contenders. Him and Terry McLaurin are clicking. Scary Terry had 112 yards. This Commanders team, I'll tell you what, it's special. I'm a pretty big fan. Then I go on to Bo Nix. He's won 3 straight. Excuse me. He's won 3 straight games here. And he's looked pretty solid using his weapons. And they did beat a bad Raiders team. But I think Bo Nix has looked pretty solid so far. And then I have Tank Bigsby. This guy is good. He had a great game, 13 carries for 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. He is the running back 1 right now in Jacksonville. And he has looked just amazing so far in Jacksonville. I'm very happy to see someone succeed in Jacksonville. I was going to write Trevor Lawrence's name down here, but I didn't. I'm going to put Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, just an amazing game, almost threw for 400 yards. They almost won that game, but Evan McPherson missed a field goal. So I think this is a pretty big win in retrospect for the Bengals, because they know that, okay, we can win games. We can beat good teams. The Ravens are a damn good team, and they can beat those good teams. You want to start with your winners, with your losers? Or do you want me to?
I just find it funny. It's 2024 and Juju Smith-Schuster's on both of our winners lists. How about it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Losers, I talked about a lot of them. Wait, were you going to say something? Don't want to cut you off.
I don't know. Do you want me to go losers, or do you want to hit losers first?
I guess I'll go since you just did your winners. Sure. I talked about all of these during our NFL spiels or game spiels, so you're going to hear a lot of recaps. I put the New York Jets as my number 1 loser.
Yeah.
They just fired Robert Saleh. They escorted him out of his office by their security, which I think is wild. Aaron Rodgers, I fear, has broke this franchise and honestly hasn't been performing well. I put Peyton Manning and Tom Brady late in their careers, never had a coach fired while there. We all know whatever Rodgers wants, their owner is going to give. They also have a 2-3 record. Jets are always going to jet, as I always like to say. Number 2, I put George Pickens. We just talked about him. The whole always effing open. Okay, 3 recs, 7 targets, 26 yards. This load management thing, I fear, isn't even true. For someone that is always effing open, like I put, he didn't show it against the Cowboys on national TV. I want to see it change. I hate putting him here as a Steelers fan, but that was a bad game. Number 3, the Cleveland Browns. Yes, the Bengals are also 1-4, but they have at least shown stuff in their football games. The Browns just flat out stink and are stuck with Deshaun Watson. Kevin Stefanski, and I put AKA Mr. Coach of the Year. And if you want to rewind in this previous episode, you can go to my rant about him. AKA Mr. Coach of the Year won't make a QB change when that is the problem. No one else is the problem on this team. It's Deshaun Watson. I put free Jameis Winston ASAP. Number 4. Also, I talked about all these things. Number 4, Josh Allen. Probably one of the worst games for him we have seen this so far in his career. 9 of 30, 131 yards and a touchdown. I think the MVP talks are going to start to cool down after this one. 3-0 to 3-2 within 2 weeks. I think he needs to start playing better. This was a bad game for Josh Allen, but I think he's going to wake up. And number 5, sticking with the Bills, the clock management. They went for passing plays in your own territory, like in the final minute. That was just plain stupid. They had to punt it and just giving the Texans the opportunity to hit the game-winning field goal. And then honorable mention, just for fun, I put the San Francisco 49ers in the second half. They allowed 14 unanswered all second half to the Cardinals. They lose 24-23. A Super Bowl favorite is now 2-3 early to start the season. So those are my losers of the week.
All right. My first loser of the week, Justin Fields. His job might be gone. And not that he had a bad game or anything, but dude, your job is cooked. Okay. Um, I got a few guys whose jobs might be cooked. Well, one other guy, Jacoby Brissett. His job is cooked now. They said they're gonna go with Drake May. Brissett just 10 points. He's just bad. He sucks. And the Patriots need to change. They're gonna go with Drake May. So I think that's a solid change for them. And it's about damn time. Josh Allen as a loser of the week. He had a pretty bad game, and this is a guy who I have as the MVP, and he just didn't look like that against Texans. And the decision making that they had on their own goal line was just flat out horrible. Flat out horrible. They lost the game because of that. Another loser of the week, I got Aaron Rodgers. Terrible. Might have had one of the worst quarterbacking games of the week, and not everyone saw it because it was in London. If he replicated those stats in a primetime game, he would be cooked. People would be coming for his head all week. Last loser of the week. Come on. We all know who I got to go with here every week. My guy. My favorite loser of the week, the biggest loser in the National Football League, Deshaun Watson. I love your downfall. I love it every week. You're a loser of the week every week, and it makes me so happy. I love doing this segment because I get to talk about how much I hate you, how much you suck. Your QBR was 8.5. Not even me being biased. You are horrible, and you should be a backup quarterback. You should be in the XFL. Hell, you should be in the FCS. Hell, you should be playing whippy old football. You should be playing single A football down at like Marion Center. You suck. You're horrible. You should be running a power I offense because you can't throw the ball. You have the decision making of an infant child. And Deshaun Watson, you just suck. I hate you. I hate your guts. I hate when you get glazed, and I love your downfall. I'm serious. It's one of my favorite things in life is praying on your downfall. I wake up every day. First thing I do is pray on your downfall. I go to sleep. The first thing I dream about is your downfall. When I wake up in the middle of the night, I can fall back asleep with peace because I know how much you suck. So I just love seeing your downfall, Deshaun Watson. You are my loser of the week, and you are the biggest contender for loser of the year because in general, you are just a loser in life. And you got another case on your hands that just happened like 2 days ago. You got another accusation. So what a loser. Losers of the week.
Love it. Easy loser of the week. I just put the whole team in general because their coach won't make the change. It's just it's such a dumb situation. Free Jameis Winston.
Start Jameis.
Free Jameis Winston. Either start him or let him go somewhere else. He deserves better, in my opinion. What he's been given with the Cleveland Browns. You got anything else?
I do not have anything else. Good episode today. Solid episode.
Yeah, that was a great episode.
We'll be back Friday. Possible tier list, running back tier list.
Yeah, we got to do that.
We might see what else we could do tier list wise. But yeah. So should have a special little segment Friday. Try and do something fun. We try and do fun stuff on Fridays. Fun Fridays. New name.
Fun Fridays.
So yeah, that was it. Appreciate everyone for tuning in today. Nicholas, appreciate you in the chat, typing as always, and everyone who tuned in. We will see you guys next time.
Yep. See y'all.